What's going on? My name is Joe Lewis. I practice talking on the internet. You can support me over at Patreon at patreon.com/Joe Lewis with two O's. For 5, 7, $10, you can make me make content. So check out the perks for that if that is something that interests you. And I'd also like to thank Jane, Marking, Maru, Frackle, Liberation, Valentine, and Michael for their contributions into making sure this stays afloat. So with that being said, we're actually going to talk about something a little bit different today, and that is kind of so you'll want to be on panels, and you want to be on panels while also having a smooth experience while you're on those panels. So I have a lot of experience in that. For those of you who don't know, for whatever reason, I have been on panels, lots of panels actually. This is from the Hippy Dippy Roundtable, 3 years ago at this point? What's the date? October 31st. And then shout outs to Franklin and Slash. Apparently, I'm the third most invited person, or I guess the third in appearances on the Hippy Dippy Roundtable behind conservatives. In between conservatives. Also, I've been a frequent guest and one of the founding panelists on the All Black Everything. As you can see, apparently I thought it was a good idea to shower before going on panels. So you got a lot of cool hair days. But yeah, I've been on panels for the past 3 years, if not longer. I first started out just on a scuffed setup on A4 Andres, the A4 Auditorium. Then that transitioned to me just doing like small things. On, like, say, when Chud Logic was doing streams, Mr. Geek was doing streams, or stream panels, excuse me. And then that segued to me doing Dylan's, and that segued to me doing a bunch of other stuff. If it was not for my, appearances on panels, I probably wouldn't have gotten partner. I probably wouldn't have met a lot of you people. So panels is kind of how, like, I got my bearings in the space, for better or worse. But I want to kind of share some things that I learned along the way in terms of a technical aspect. So this is not really about political stuff. Sorry, it's a little bit about technical stuff. And for those of you who want to be on panels, these are kind of things that might help you, and maybe I can clarify a few things along the way in terms of making your life easier as a panel guest and panel host, or really just a panel guest. And maybe these things can be some things that can be helpful for you. So here's the first thing, and a lot of it's just settings and subtleties of things. So we'll kind of work our way front to back. The first thing you want to kind of recognize is you want to have a decent microphone, but not a decent microphone in terms of like the cost of the microphone. So right now I cycle in between two microphones, which is this condenser. I think it's a what the fuck is this? The ACE Audio-Technica 4033. And then also for the longest time I used this, which is a Shure Beta 58. Before this, I also have, which is somewhere in my room, a SM57. So I technically cycle around those three microphones, but the general gist about the microphone that you use is that you want something that has a decent amount of sensitivity to deal with vocal variety and just to deal with the software that is Discord, which is where you will find yourself most times. Not every microphone behaves well when you're using it as a streamer and in Discord. So there is some trial and error in finding the mic that works best. I found that these three work good for me. So SM57, a Audio-Technica 4033, or the 57's like cousin, the Shure Beta 58. This is a giant windscreen that you can actually put this. So like on this mic, right, I don't have never mind, it doesn't fucking matter. The mic doesn't matter. The biggest thing about the mic that you do pick, however, is having the proper sensitivity. You can get away with a headset, but headsets are a little bit tricky. But I just recommend having an external microphone and an interface if that is something that you want to do. Another thing that's very, very useful, not required, but very useful, is having two webcams, especially if you're a streamer and want to stream while you're on these panels. You can, like for instance, if you go over to the settings within your software of choice, I use OBS. You can like turn on virtual camera, and that shares the camera that you're using to your audience. That creates better quality. But at the end of the day, quality when you're on these panels is generally irrelevant, unless it's very, very bad. I've just kind of, for a while, I cared about that aesthetic, but then I realized it doesn't matter. As long as you have something that is showing who you are and having a sound that isn't awful, those are the things that are gonna be okay. Like most, if not all, panel guests or hosts, excuse me, will tolerate a decent webcam. It's just your audio that's going to be the biggest judge. Don't do what some of these people do and have like headsets that are right up against their mouth. That's just, don't do that. But you can get away with like shoddy webcams. There's just like an endless supply of shoddy and we're actually in a good age of webcams, by the way. So like for instance, these are both webcams, by the way. So this is the Elgato Facecam, and then I just use just a 1080 Logitech as my like Discord / secondary webcam. This is also good in case one of these two things fail. So like the biggest thing that I kind of have within my setup is a main and a backup with like external stuff. So like this is why I keep this nearby. So like if there's some problem that this microphone has, I can just choop and be good to go. If there's something with the webcam, I can just switch them. Like it gives me a little bit of flexibility in order to like go back and forth, and it's just a peace of mind. But the biggest thing, if I'm going to drive one point home, is just how you sound. With how you sound, there's this screen. This screen has eluded many a content creator. So hopefully I can clarify a few things so you don't get mixed up as well. The first thing is your input device. The input device is this is all Discord, by the way. This is all Discord settings, because a lot of what your navigation is going to be is within Discord. So the input device is what you are sending to Discord for audio. So right now I'm using the Wavelink Microphone FX, which is just my microphone with all the post-processing. And that's getting sent directly into Discord as its own separate source. I could, if I wanted to, change it to the mic in. Now I'm and that's going to be a different sound versus the Wavelink monitor, versus the microphone itself, versus the Streamlink. So all of these are the different input sources that I can send to Discord. It's not going to send to stream. So you can have something where your microphone is just inputting into Discord. That way you can have other things playing around in the background and have it separate. Like the biggest thing that I could tell you right now is have whatever you have on stream separate than what you have on Discord. And that's going to be a little bit longer of a explanation. If that's something that interests you, maybe I'll do a part 2 of clarifying like how you can separate Discord from OBS. But generally speaking, for the sake of this conversation, just set it to whatever your microphone input is, and just your microphone input. For me, it's the Wavelink Microphone FX, and I set and forget. Your output is what is going to output to you, which also has to be to your audience if you're streaming. If you want the audio output to be the same for you and your audience, you want to change this thing, audio output source, to whatever you're sending to your stream. So for me, I'm using the Wavelink voice chat. And all that means is for my stream bus, this toggle is what's getting sent to the stream. And as you can see, it's dropped all the way down for me in settings currently. But I can adjust this so I could hear like what's going on in a Discord call and stuff like that. But generally, not generally, just what it is that whatever you're sending to your stream, this has to match. If that doesn't match, you're going to have problems. When it comes to input and output, I just set these to 100 and 100 or 200, sorry. 100 for input, 200 for output. I haven't ran into a problem since because everybody's microphone volumes are going to be different. So you're going to run into different problems depending on the guest that you're dealing with. Input mode. This is how Discord treats your microphone. So push to talk means you push a button and then it opens it up like a open and close door. And voice activity is just that whenever there's activity, it catches it. Now, this eludes people. This is a toggle of the sensitivity of when people will start hearing you. So as long as this brown, dark, black, I don't know what this color this is, whenever this passes over this bar that you have set, then people will start hearing you. Generally speaking, I have this set, and the way that I set this, as I toggle it down a little bit, is I set it so that it avoids pops and things that like crackle and stuff. And the way that you can test this, I'll show it to you right now, is I'm actually going to turn down what you hear from this microphone, and then I'm going to hit the mic check, which is this test. And what this does is that it plays back what you would be hearing if you were on the panel. This is where I was talking about in terms of checking your mic audio. So I can just checking your mic quality. So for example, I'm going to turn down the stream volume. And now you are hearing what people in Discord would hear if I'm talking. And the thing that I'm looking for when I'm listening to this, or if I was listening to this in headphones, is any type of weird artifacts. Artifact might be the best word, but things like general outside noise that the microphone might catch, and then if it catches it, I adjust it. So for me, it tends to be from minus 60 to minus 57. This is going to vary on your room and your setup. So this is something you want to spend a little bit of time in making sure that's correct. When it comes to these bars here, it says like playing back your beautiful voice. I try to make it so that it's catching voice back to you. So I try to make sure that my output is catching one of these letters. What I'm saying catching one of these letters is that it's crossing it. Now, obviously, this is going to sound pretty scuffed in OBS right now and probably pretty loud. But generally speaking, I would rather my audio be loud and the host pulling it back than having to push myself within my settings. So just interpret your mic being too loud as a compliment, because you'd rather want to pull yourself back than having a panel host push you up. It's like the worst thing that I found, objectively speaking. And we're back. So now we're back to like what you would hear from me. Hopefully that doesn't sound too awful when in the editing room for me, because I usually do these in one take. Now, video settings, again, I strongly recommend having a separate camera. If you don't have a separate camera, then you can just use a virtual camera in your software of choice. That's fine. I'm not a fan of many cams and those external camera clones. I've just always had problems with them, so I just avoid them. But if that's something you want to go down, then go down it. But I personally wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, since I'm using an external camera, I go to test. And now you see this camera right here, which is the other camera that exists in my setup. Again, the visual doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't matter. So don't get too caught up in trying to look super pretty on the panel cam. what you can find as well and things that you can do is I can do a bunch of different things with this camera with these settings right here if that's something that you're really concerned about. So I can blur out my background so that if there's something of like identifiable information, the software will just like blur whatever your backdrop is. I can make it so that I'm like on some weird like thing. There's this one. There's a bunch of different things that you can do for this, which are totally fine. The one thing that I would recommend that you do if you do use these things is, as you notice, I'm always wearing black or some type of muted color. I try to stick to those because they're easy to operate on when I'm working within the stream and working with settings. I just found it to be a lot easier to, when I'm working in different softwares, to just have a shirt or something that's black or just something that's darker so that I'm not like messing around with getting caught with green screen stuff wearing like something within the color spectrum of green and stuff like that. So something to think about. But generally speaking, like if you're really worried about your background with your secondary camera, you can just blur it out in Discord settings. These are true in other pieces of software as well. And again, like obviously, as you can tell on this, like the color grading is awful. Like I have a few windows open right now, so you're getting like the reflection of my face, but that doesn't seem to catch it in the other webcam. So these are all things that you can adjust when in like room treatment. But again, that kind of goes without saying, like treat your room before you hit record. Not like me, not like what I did, but like if that's something that really concerns you, there's like different like lighting methods that you can do in terms of treating your room. And that's pretty much it. Everything else in this, I don't touch. Once you're done with this, by the way, you can just turn off the preview. But I'm going to keep it up for now. I don't touch any of these things. The noise suppression, I set to none. Auto gain, I set that to none. This is the attenuation. I don't do anything with this. I have it down to 0%, and I have it to when others speak. Again, if it's at 0, it's not activated. Don't touch this. Audio subsystem, don't touch this. Keep it to standard. I keep all these activated. I don't know what they do. Check a different video for that. This is the only one I keep up, which is show warning when in Discord is not detecting audio from your mic. I keep this up because sometimes you might run into the situation where you're just muted by accident, so it's a good spot check. I have two ways of muting my audio. I have it over here where I can just hit a mute button and it doesn't pick me up. So something like that. Or you can have it set in your settings in Discord. So like there's like you can set a button to mute yourself. So like within my software, I have a button that's set to my Stream Deck, where if I press it, it just mutes me within Discord and then unmutes me when I'm done. That's something you can do, or you can just be sharp with the mute button over here. Again, I can't stress this enough. Just have your audio separate from your streaming service of choice. That way you can just like control Discord externally and then it doesn't screw up anything else. But that's really all I got. At the end of the day, regardless of whatever your setup is, if you're looking for like an actual tip that's not like tech support, just be you. Be you to the best of your ability, and just remember that like that's what people are going to come back for, and that's what people are going to enjoy about you. Just be yourself. Don't try to be a character of yourself. Just be you and try to do your thing. A lot of people feel like they got to overperform and stuff around people, and even though sometimes I did that. But the biggest thing I can tell you is you'll feel a lot better coming in and out of panels when you feel like it's just an authentic representation of you, as opposed to just like a character of appeasement. So if you are a lefty, do some lefty shit. If you're a righty, do some righty shit. If you're a centrist, be irrelevant. whatever, you just be you and just be comfortable. But at the end of the day, having good sound is better than having good visuals. You'll be back on a panel for good sound than you will before good video. For God's sakes, have a webcam. If you're really worried about like your people seeing you, and that's something that gives you anxiety, there are different apps and different things that you can function as a VTuber for. Like, go the VTube route. There's a bunch of tutorials and free software that's available that can create a little avatar for yourself that moves around in place of you. That's something a lot of content creators do on panels when they're not too comfortable with it. Another thing you can do is actually just set a external, so something you can do in OBS, if this is something you're uncomfortable with, right? You can just do the same thing over here. Do the same thing over here. Set a scene that doesn't have you in front of it, and then just put that in front, turn on a virtual webcam, and then be done. That's another thing you can do for that. But at the end of the day, like, just be yourself, have fun, don't take it too seriously. And yeah. I hope this was helpful. If there's any question that you have about panels from a technical aspect, or just panels in general that you want to know more about, let me know. Feel free to comment and I can answer to the best of my ability. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And yeah, I hope this was helpful for you, and take care. Have a great rest of your day.